Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, the Supreme National Security Council of the Islamic Republic of Iran warns Israel of detrimental consequences if it would continue to target Iranian forces that operate in its northern neighbor Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Austrian President Alexander von der Bellen, during which he reiterated the importance of Israel that serves as a great fortress in the battle against militant Islam. The commanding officer of the U.S. Military Central Command, which oversees American military operations in the Middle East, warns that the Islamic State would pose an enduring threat to the West following a planned U.S. withdrawal from Syria. The Supreme National Security Council of the Islamic Republic of Iran warned Israel of detrimental consequences if it would continue to target Iranian forces that operate in its northern neighbor Syria. The Secretary of the Council, Ali Shamkhani, was quoted as saying that if the Israeli attacks in Syria continue, the Islamic Republic will take a number of calculated steps for deterrence purposes and a solid response which will teach the criminal and lying leaders of Israel a lesson. The threat Shamkhani made came just 1 month after he declared in a separate statement that precision missiles are held by the strong hands of the resistance fighters in Gaza and Lebanon, and warned Jerusalem that they are ready to fire those missiles at Israel if it makes a stupid move. Since making the threats last month, however, Israel attacked Iranian forces in Syria twice overtly, and according to local Syrian reports that were verified by TV7, at least 12 members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps were counted among the casualties. Since then, Iran continued its attempts to bolster its capabilities in Syria and Lebanon, yet contrary to repeated threats, it refrained from attacking the Jewish state. According to a senior Israeli intelligence source who is tasked with monitoring Iranian movements in the region, the threat voiced last night was yet another hollow bark by a muzzled dog. The source underscored that Israel knows every move taken by the mullahs in Tehran and will act accordingly to assure the security of its citizens and the integrity of its sovereignty. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Austrian President Alexander von der Bellen, during which he reiterated the importance of Israel that serves as a great fortress in the battle against militant Islam.
Here in the Middle East, we face the two forces, the great forces of militant Islam, the militant Sunnis, led by Daesh, and the militant Shiites led by Iran and its proxies. We are committed to blocking their advance, and in so doing, we're defending not only ourselves, but in many ways defending Europe. Israel is the great fortress here at the edge of Asia, at the edge of the Mediterranean, that is preventing the forces of militant Islam from sweeping the region and sending millions and millions and millions of people into homeless wandering throughout the continents, especially the continent of Europe. The best way to deal with this is to deal with it here, to defeat these forces here. And Israel is doing more than its fair share in that regard.
The Israeli leader also pointed to the ongoing challenge from the Islamic Republic of Iran, which openly calls for the annihilation of the Jewish state. Netanyahu reiterated Israel's commitment to prevent the Ayatollah regime from obtaining nuclear weapons, as well as efforts to thwart the Islamic Republic's aspiration to entrench itself militarily in Syria. To assure the freedom of fulfilling Israel's military objectives in Syria uninterrupted, the Prime Minister announced a scheduled trip to Moscow, in which he will hold discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I'll be going on February 21st again to Russia, following my discussions with President Putin in Paris a few months ago and subsequent phone conversations. It's very important that we continue to prevent Iran from entrenching in Syria. In many ways, we've blocked that advance, but we're committed to continuously blocking it, continuously preventing Iran from creating another war front against us right here opposite the Golan Heights. This is one of the subjects, the main subjects, that I'll be discussing with President Putin.
Meanwhile, in Tehran, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani called U.S. President Donald Trump a liar after the American leader expressed his wish earlier this week to keep U.S. forces in Iraq in order to monitor neighboring Iran. In a statement the Iranian president made, which was quoted by state-run media, Rouhani said, "You say you stay in Iraq to watch Iran. Well, before that, you were saying you stay there for fighting terrorism. It is so nice that you honestly express yourself." Meanwhile, in the Iraqi capital Baghdad, Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi called upon U.S. President Donald Trump to back down from his pledge to maintain an American military presence in his country so that Washington could keep a close eye on neighboring Iran. Speaking at a weekly press conference, the Iraqi leader voiced his rejection of any notion that any foreign force was stationed in Iraq for any other purpose than to train Iraqi troops and combat the Islamic State.
لا نجد أن هذه التصريحات مفيدة وحقيقة لا تساعد كثيرا ونرجو التراجع عنها ونرجو من أصدقائنا الأمريكان أن يوضحوا موقفهم في هذه القضايا.
There was no immediate response from the White House to TV7's request for comment. Meanwhile, the commanding officer of the U.S. military's Central Command, which oversees American military operations in the Middle East, warned that the Islamic State would pose an enduring threat to the West following a planned U.S. withdrawal from Syria. General Joseph Votel stressed in remarks during a Senate hearing that the fight against the Islamic State and violent extremists is not over and that the American mission has not changed to eradicate the extreme Muslim militants from the region.
Fight against ISIS and violent extremists is not over, and our mission has not changed. The coalition's hard-won battlefield gains can only be secured by maintaining a vigilant offensive against a now largely dispersed and disaggregated ISIS that retains leaders, fighters, facilitators, resources, and the profane ideology that fuels their efforts.
General Votel further stressed that the United States, in cooperation with its partners in Syria, will continue to keep pressure on the Islamic State. When asked whether he was consulted on the president's decision to withdraw from Syria, which prompted, among others, the resignation of former Secretary of Defense James Mattis, General Votel revealed that he was not consulted on the sensitive measure.
General, were you aware of the president's intention to order the withdrawal of our troops from Syria before that was publicly announced?
I was not aware of the specific announcement. Certainly, we are aware that he had expressed a desire and intent in the past to depart Iraq.
So you weren't consulted before that decision was announced?
We were not. I was not consulted.
Meanwhile, in Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that the United States has not yet presented his country with an acceptable plan for northeastern Syria, 3 weeks after President Donald Trump suggested establishing a safe zone along the frontier. The Turkish leader, in a speech to his ruling AK party, claimed that he remained hopeful of reaching concrete understandings with his American counterpart, yet warned that Ankara's patience is limited vis-à-vis the Kurdish militias in northern Syria. Turkey, which amassed a significant military presence along its southern border with Syria, warned of an imminent invasion to eradicate Kurdish militias that it views as terrorist organizations. The United States, however, warned Turkey on several occasions to avoid attacks on the Kurds, whom served as the primary ground force of the U.S. coalition against the Islamic State. Nevertheless, Turkish President Erdogan has demanded to establish a safe zone that will remove all militants that are viewed by Ankara as a threat. To discuss the safe zone, a meeting is currently ongoing in the United States, in which ministers of countries that make up the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State are in attendance, including Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hessen, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.